an urgent focus of every country in NATO.
Today, I'm announcing the historic donation of air defense equipment for Ukraine. The United States, Germany, the Netherlands, Romania, and Italy will provide Ukraine with the equipment for 5 additional strategic air defense systems. And in the coming months, the United States and our partners intend to provide Ukraine with dozens of additional tactical air defense systems. The United States will make sure that when we export critical air defense interceptors, Ukraine goes to the front of the line. They will get this assistance before anyone else gets it. All told, Ukraine will receive hundreds of additional interceptors over the next year, helping protect Ukrainian cities against Russian missiles, Ukrainian troops facing air attacks on their front lines. Make no mistake, Russia is failing in this war.
The White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby will join us in a moment to discuss President Biden's assembly of the NATO alliance in Washington this week. President Biden had no campaign events scheduled today, but the speech to the NATO alliance once again demonstrated one of the advantages an incumbent president usually has in a re-election campaign, being able to get that presidential focus at a presidential event. House Democrats met this morning for what they called a listening session about the presidential campaign. Here is what the youngest member of Congress, who will be our first guest tonight, said after that meeting this morning.
After the meeting last night with the Congressional Black Caucus and after spending time on the phone with Anita Dunn and other campaign officials, I feel very reassured by the president's plan. There's been this narrative that since the debate, he has not been out. He's been out. The videos I've seen of people out campaigning has been Joe Biden. On the other hand, I've seen Donald Trump on his ass riding around a golf cart disrespecting people. So I feel reassured about the campaign's plan. They're spending $50 million in the battleground states on ads, and he's going to be on the road talking about Project 2025 and the things people care about.
Since FDR in the 1930s, the 3-letter designation of a political player has always referred to presidents. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, JFK, LBJ. There is only one member of the House of Representatives in history who has been identified in the 3-letter style normally reserved for presidents. Here is what AOC had to say about President Biden's re-election campaign.
I've spoken with him extensively. He made clear then, and he has made clear since, that he is in this race. The matter is closed. He had reiterated that this morning. He has reiterated that to the public. Joe Biden is our nominee. He is not leaving this race. He is in this race, and I support him. Now, what I think is critically important right now is that we focus on what it takes to win in November, because he is running against Donald Trump, who is a man with 34 felony convictions that has committed 34 felony crimes, and not a single Republican has asked for Donald Trump to not be the nominee. I'm here to win on this democracy. I'm here to win in November.
After Senate Democrats had a luncheon discussion about the presidential campaign, Democratic Majority Leader of the Senate, Chuck Schumer, said this.
Are you confident that President Biden has what it takes to win in November and serve the next 4 years?
As I've said before, I'm with Joe.
Senator
yes.
Schumer, do you expect, based on differences of opinion in the Democratic Party about the president, his ability to serve 2 more years, that there might be a challenge at the convention? And if there is there the ability to throw out the virtual nomination?
As I've said before, I'm with Joe.
Senator Murray, who just left, made a statement last night saying that she believes that Biden needs to do more to demonstrate that he's strong enough to defeat Donald Trump, articulate a vision, and must seriously consider the best way to preserve his legacy. Do you agree with her sentiment?
As I've said before, I'm with Joe.
We are now in the second week of public and semi-public discussions about the viability of the Biden-Harris campaign and whether the Democrats should be trying to find a way to replace Joe Biden as the Democratic presidential nominee. That is an entirely speculative conversation, which is to say it is entirely guesswork, because it is completely up to Joe Biden to decide whether he will remain the nominee. And if he does, according to the rules of the Democratic Convention, he will be nominated on the first ballot. President Biden says, and said repeatedly, he intends to remain the nominee. So that is the state of the news. Joe Biden is the nominee. But that has not been enough to stop those speculative guesswork conversations, and that's understandable. Some of the contributors to the public conversation, including members of the House of Representatives, both for and against Joe Biden remaining on the ticket, have made thoughtful and serious points worth considering. The White House press corps' contribution to the conversation has been mostly hysteria. As we saw yesterday, when some of the White House press corps sunk to a new low. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre responded to a New York Times story published yesterday saying that according to White House logs, a neurologist who is a specialist in Parkinson's disease visited the White House 8 times over 8 months. The story was written in a style to create a dark, ominous Parkinson's cloud over the White House. It was a completely accurate story as far as it went, but it was also a very badly reported story, as we will show you in a moment. Karine Jean-Pierre told the White House press corps that specialists, medical specialists, come to the White House for many reasons, including to treat the thousands of people, primarily military personnel, who use the White House medical unit, which is not reserved for the exclusive use of the president. So it is entirely possible for a specialist to visit the White House for reasons unrelated to the president. Karine Jean-Pierre explained all of that, that the president's annual physical does include an examination by specialists, including a neurologist. And so President Biden has seen a neurologist exactly 3 times in his term as president. Karine Jean-Pierre made that very clear yesterday, 3 times, not the 8 times in 8 months that the New York Times suggested was possible and maybe even likely in its reporting. Here is how some of that questioning about all of that went yesterday.
The president, I can tell you, has seen a neurologist 3 times as it's connected to a physical that he gets every year that we provide to all of you.
It's a very basic, direct question.
Wait, hold on, wait a second.
8 times, or at least once, in regards to the president specifically.
Hold on a second.
That much you should be able to answer by this point.
Wait, no. No, wait a minute. Ed, please. A little respect here, please. So every year, around the president's physical examination, he sees a neurologist. That's 3 times, right? So I am telling you that he has seen a neurologist 3 times while he has been in this presidency. That's what I'm saying. I am telling you that he has seen them 3 times. That is what I'm sharing with you, right? So every time he has a physical, he has had to see a neurologist. So that is answering that question.
No, it's not.
No, it is. It is. You're asking me.
Kennard, come to the White House.
But I also said to you, Ed, I also said to you, for security reasons, we cannot share names. We cannot share names.
You cannot
we
share
have
names
to. We have
of
to.
Others he would have met with.
We
but
cannot.
You can share names in regards to if someone came here in regards to the president.
We cannot share names of specialists broadly, from a dermatologist to a neurologist. We cannot share names. There are security reasons. We have to protect.
It's public.
I understand that.
I looked it up before I came out here.
hear
It's
you.
right there for anyone to see.
Ed, I hear you. I cannot from here confirm any of that because we have to keep their privacy. I think they would appreciate that too. We have to give them.
Question of the doctor.
We have to keep their privacy.
It is public.
It's public information.
I hear you.
listed that he went to
And you're going to allow this to fester longer, Karina, unless the White House answers the
hold
question.
on a second. There's no reason to go back and forth and be in this aggressive
We're
way.
miffed around here about how information's been shared with the press corps about him.
What are you missed about? What are you missed
Everything
about?
he just asked about.
What do you? And then every time I come back and I answer the question that you guys asked.
As you have seen, Ed is not very good at the respect thing. At least he wasn't yesterday. Let's just assume it was a bad day for him. But he is much worse at the apology thing. Today, when Karine Jean-Pierre returned to the podium, take a wild guess how many angry follow-up questions Ed had about the neurologist. 0. 0 questions and 0 apologies for the rage of yesterday. The rage of yesterday was gone, and the neurologist scandal was gone with it. Because, as anyone watching this program last night knows, just before 10 p.m. last night, the White House released a letter from President Biden's White House doctor. That letter proved that everything Karine Jean-Pierre said yesterday was true. And the letter added the name of the neurologist who visited the White House 8 times in 8 months, a name that Karine Jean-Pierre was not authorized to release yesterday. The letter said that the neurologist, quote, has held regular neurology clinics at the White House Medical Clinic in support of the thousands of active duty members assigned in support of White House operations. Many military personnel experience neurological issues related to their service, and Dr. Kennard regularly visits the White House Medical Unit as part of this general neurology practice. We value the contributions he has made across the many patients he has treated in support of the White House and its personnel over these years. Yes, military personnel have head injuries. Yes, military personnel need neurologists. Yes, military personnel use the White House Medical Unit. The letter also revealed that that same neurologist, quote, was the neurologist specialist that examined President Biden for each of his annual physicals. His findings have been made public each time I have released the results of the president's annual physical. President Biden has not seen a neurologist outside of his annual physical. The letter pointed out that the neurologist has been seeing patients at the White House for a dozen years. The New York Times has no idea how many times that same neurologist visited the White House during the Trump years because the Trump White House visitor logs were sealed off to the press. They were not public information. So yesterday's rage outburst in the White House press briefing room was only possible because the Biden White House restored the White House policy of making the visitor logs public. Today, NBC News reported that on most of the days that the neurologist visited the Biden White House, President Biden was not there. So if the New York Times would have done just the minimal amount of homework checking the president's travel schedule, they would have reported that the neurologist had visited the White House exactly 3 times when President Biden was there. 3 instead of the 8 times in 8 months report that the New York Times delivered and was breathlessly accepted by the White House press corps. That was easily available information to the New York Times, the president's travel schedule. And they did not bother to even think about it, look at it, or report it. Not one person working at the New York Times, from the publisher, editor, on down to those reporters, not did it ever cross their minds. Where was President Biden on that day? Where was he in the world? Never crossed their minds. That is college newspaper standard that we're talking about here. President Biden wasn't there most of the time when the neurologist visited the White House. President's travel schedule is even more public than the White House visitor logs. You have the president's travel schedule. And the New York Times did not bother to check the president's travel schedule before suggesting to the world that a neurologist visited the White House 8 times in 8 months, presumably to treat patient Biden. That was a very bad piece of reporting by our best newspaper, which remains our best newspaper. And today, only one reporter in the White House press briefing room brought the subject up again and tried to blame yesterday's rage outbreak on Karine Jean-Pierre.
Can I just ask why that information that was released last night just wasn't said at the briefing yesterday?
Well, no. Actually, a lot of what is in the letter was said at the briefing, to be very, very clear. I said many of the things that were laid out in the letter was actually repeated right here behind this lectern at this podium yesterday. It was what
said that.
Hold on. I said many of the things, and we got clarification, obviously, from Dr. O'Connor, but it was in line with what I said. When I said only 3, right? I said only 3 visits that this particular doctor had. I said a neurologist. What I was not able to confirm is the name, and the reason why is because we do not share private information. That is something that we respect, and we wanted to make sure that we protected our consultants here that work with the White House Medical Unit, their security as well. And so that is the one thing that I was not able to confirm. Obviously, Dr. O'Connor's letter confirms that, but we had to get permission from Dr. Kennard and also the president in order to put that information. And it is not normal, and that also states that in Dr. O'Connor. But many of the things that I said right here at this podium is in the letter.
Donald Trump's press secretary answered no questions today about anything. That's exactly what Donald Trump's press secretary did yesterday, the day before, and will do tomorrow. Politics isn't fair. And coverage of presidential campaigns is not fair, and it will not be fair for the rest of this campaign. That's the way it is. But if Donald Trump wins the Electoral College again, that's not the way it's going to be in the White House press briefing room ever again. Ed won't be yelling at anyone in there. He won't dare. And he won't even have a chance. Because not only did the Trump White House refuse to make visitor logs, White House visitor logs public, the Trump White House refused to have press briefings. They simply stopped doing it when it became too difficult or challenging or uncomfortable for them. The Trump White House went 300 days without having a single press briefing. 300 days of silence in that room. One of the Trump White House press secretaries, Stephanie Grisham, never had a press briefing, and that meant that she was the only Trump White House press secretary who did not publicly lie on camera to the country and the press. There are some great reporters in that room. There always have been, there always will be. And there are people in that room who can lose their professional bearings and become hysterical and enraged and unprofessional and harmful to the accurate flow of information to the American public. And at a period when too much in our politics is broken, accurate information for the voting public has never been more valuable or more important or more necessary for the very preservation of this constitutional democracy. Congressman Maxwell Frost will join us after this break.
I told myself I was okay with my moderate to severe rheumatoid arthritis symptoms.
With my psoriatic arthritis symptoms. But just okay isn't okay.
And I was done settling.
If you still have symptoms after a TNF blocker like Humira or Enbrel, Rinvoq is different and may help. Rinvoq is a once-daily pill that can rapidly relieve joint pain, stiffness, and swelling in RA and PSA, relieve fatigue, and stop further joint damage. And in PSA, can leave skin clear or almost clear.
Rinvoq can lower your ability to fight infections, including TB, serious infections and blood clots, some fatal, cancers including lymphoma and skin, heart attack, stroke, and GI tears occurred. People 50 and older with a heart disease risk factor have an increased risk of death. Serious allergic reactions can occur. Tell your doctor if you are or may become pregnant.
Done settling?
Ask your rheumatologist for Rinvoq.
And take back what's yours.
AbbVie could help you save.
My hair has gotten so much thicker ever since taking this.
I used to have a probiotic, a green juice. I replaced it all with this Arma colostrum.
You gotta take it.
First thing I noticed was the energy and recovery that it had after workout. You want to try it? Try arma.com.
I managed to get the last room for $190.
I booked the last room a week ago.
I booked yesterday. Some sites panic you into booking their last room. Instead, Trivago compares hotel prices from hundreds of sites, so you can save up to $50 a night. Hotel Trivago.
Sometimes Jonah wrestles with falling asleep, so he takes ZzzQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, and wakes up feeling like himself. Get the rest to be your best with non-habit-forming ZzzQuil. Better days start with ZzzQuil nights.
What does a robot know about love? How to translate that leap inside the human heart into something we can see and hold. The fingerprints we leave behind show how determined we are to give the world a piece of ourselves. Etsy.
After careful review of medical guidance and research on pain relief, my recommendation is simple. Every home should have Salonpas. Powerful, yet non-addictive. Targeted and long-lasting. I recommend Salonpas. It's good medicine.
Ooh, fun.
Yikes. The leaky refrigerator coil card.
Is that bad?
Death! Death? Of an AC fan motor.
Oh, no.
But your future is bright with an American Home Shield warranty to protect your covered appliances and home systems. Are there bees behind me?
My bees escaped.
Bill, we talked about this. American Home Shield. Don't worry, bee warranty.
We've always loved taking care of our home. But last year, Grandpa here broke his arm. We realized some home maintenance jobs aren't worth the risk.
That's when we call Leaf Filter to protect our gutters.
Leaf Filter's patented filter technology keeps debris out of your gutters for good.
They gave us a free inspection, and we had the system installed that week.
My only regret is not calling him sooner.
Now we can focus on what we really enjoy.
Join millions of satisfied homeowners. Call 833-LEAF-FILTER today or visit leaffilter.com.
Waiting till Friday to get paid is tricky. I'm a music teacher who plays gigs, and I need to get paid for the weekend to rent equipment, or else I have to cancel. With Chime, I get paid 2 days early with no fees. Now I can make every weekend gig. Join me at Chime.com.
For the most comfortable, luxurious, eco-friendly, and affordable, handcrafted American-made mattresses on the market today. Delivered and set up in any room of your house. Saatva, luxury mattresses made affordable.
What's critically important is what the president, I believe that the president needs to do, and I have communicated this, what the president and the White House should do in order to make sure that we win in November. And that is making sure that we pivot and working and increasingly commit to the issues that are critically important to working people across this country. How are we going to expand Medicare? How are we going to expand Social Security? How are we going to provide relief to people's rent and mortgages? And if we can do that and continue our work on student loans, secure a ceasefire, and bring those dollars back into investing in public policy, then that's how we win in November. That's what I'm committed to, and that's what I want to make sure that we secure.
Leading off our discussion tonight is Democratic Congressman Maxwell Frost of Florida. He's a National Advisory Board member for the Biden-Harris campaign. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Congressman. Donald Trump is campaigning in your state of Florida tonight, and one of the things he said, which I'm going to ask you to translate for me, maybe you understand what he says better than I do. He said, on day one, we will throw out Bidenomics and replace it with Meganomics. We will quickly build the greatest economy in the history of the world. What do you think that's going to mean?
Well, I don't think he knows what it means, right, Lawrence. And here's the thing: whenever Trump is talking about Maganomics or whatever the new word of the day is for him that he's made up, we got to be honest about what he's talking about. There is an agenda that has been set. There is a plan that has been set by people who worked for him at the highest levels when he was in the White House, and that plan is called Project 2025. And I think, Trump has seen the polls and seen the numbers and the fact that most of the American public don't want to slip into this neo-fascism and authoritarian state that Trump wants. And so now he's coming online saying, oh, he doesn't know anything about Project 2025 when some of his top advisors are the ones that made it up and put it together. And so I encourage people to look into this, because no matter what he says on these rally stages, and by the way, I watched the rally today, it was really hard to watch. It was really hard to get through. I think he has a bank of 20 phrases, and he just throws them out randomly and sees if he gets claps. And unfortunately, a lot of the folks in that crowd will clap to anything. But Trump doesn't have an economic plan for us. What he wants to do is he wants to raise taxes on the middle class and on the poor, to give tax breaks to the rich, which is himself. He wants to roll back a lot of the amazing laws and bills that the Democratic Congress passed and that Joe Biden signed into law, and he wants to bring us backwards. And that's what everybody needs to know as we go into this election in November.
And he does want to put a 10% sales tax on everything that's imported into this country. It's a tariff, of course, but what he doesn't tell his audiences, and I don't think he understands or they understands, they pay it. It raises prices to them by 10%. So your $30,000 Toyota, say, becomes a $33,000 Toyota.
Yeah, I mean, he's just completely lying to people. And the thing here is his platform is out there. And so what we have to do as Democrats is make sure that our conversation and most of what we talk about has to be around correcting Donald Trump's lies that he will continue to tell on the campaign trail, on the debate stage, anywhere he is. The platform is out there. It's incredibly unpopular. It is not popular in the state of Florida. It is not popular in any state. And we just got to make sure we continue to talk about it. And that's something we've been doing, Lawrence, in Central Florida. We're actually in a program called Democracy Summer that Jamie Raskin started. It's students across the entire country learning about democracy and organizing and actually going out, knocking doors, going on the campaign trail. And we've hired around 20 young students, most of them high schoolers, who have learned a lot about Project 2025, who are out talking with our constituents about it. And so if you want to learn more about the program, you go to frostforcongress.com to learn about it, or chip in to help us continue to do it. But this is what we need. We need to continue to be on the doors, on our news networks, doing rallies, doing events, meeting people where they're at, and talking about the true Republican agenda, which is Project 2025.
Congressman Maxwell Frost, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
And coming up, Admiral John Kirby will join us as President Biden leads the 75th anniversary of NATO in a summit in Washington.
Not every decision you make will be as good as getting a Volkswagen at the Savvy VW Summer Sales Event. 2024 Volkswagen models cost less to maintain than Honda. Get 0.9% APR financing or a $3,500 customer bonus on a new 2024 Atlas or Atlas Cross Sport.
After my hair started thinning, my dermatologist recommended Nutrafol. The formulas are clinically tested.
My hair is much stronger and longer.
I feel like I'm a completely different person.
Get growing at Nutrafol.com.
I have moderate to severe Crohn's disease. Now there's Skyrizi.
Things are looking up. I've got symptom relief. Control of my Crohn's means everything to me. Control is everything to me.
Feel significant symptom relief at 4 weeks with Skyrizi, including less abdominal pain and fewer bowel movements. Skyrizi is the first IL-23 inhibitor that can deliver remission and visibly improve damage of the intestinal lining. And Skyrizi is proven to help deliver long-lasting remission at 1 year.
Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, had a vaccine, or plan to. Liver problems may occur in Crohn's disease.
Now's the time to ask your gastroenterologist how you can take control of your Crohn's with Skyrizi.
Control is everything to me.
Learn how AbbVie could help you save.
Hi, I'm Tony Hawk, and like many of you, I take a statin to reduce cholesterol. But statins can also deplete CoQ10 levels. That's why my doctor recommended Cunol CoQ10. Cunol has the #1 cardiologist-recommended form of CoQ10. Cunol, the brand I trust.
You found the right model.
For sure.
Now, how can you be sure you're getting the right deal?
I have to talk to my bestie.
Hey, girl. This one's like your last boyfriend.
It's got issues.
Let's ask the experts. For the right used car, just say, show me the Carfax value. You'll get the most accurate price based on the vehicle's accident history. Look for me and stop overpaying. Shop at the all-new Carfax.com.
I like makeup that makes you look like yourself, but better. Miracle Balm is the center of my beauty philosophy. It gives you moisture, and it only takes a nanosecond to put it on. Learn more at jonesroadbeauty.com.
When you purchase a pair of Bombas socks, tees, or underwear, you also donate one to someone facing homelessness. One purchased equals one donated. 100 million donations and counting. Visit bombas.com and get 20% off your first order.
Get the life back. Okay, good. He's breathing. Okay.
When I saw that Ethan was not breathing, I determined that I needed to use something to remove the obstruction from his airway.
It's very important for every household to have a life vest.
Everyone should have one in their home. Anything can happen at any moment.
I want my friends and family and people that I serve to know that we have this device to potentially save lives.
Protect your family. Go to lifevac.net.
Go to lifevac.net or call 877-LIFEVAC.
It's lunchtime, and Gary is double booked. Good thing Gary's company uses Otter's AI meeting assistant to take notes and generate a summary. So Gary doesn't miss a meeting and can regain his lunch break. Try now for free. Visit otter.ai or download the app.
This bakery needs new equipment fast to keep up with demand. So they're going to On Deck, the online lender that makes it easy to choose your loan and, if approved, get funds as soon as the same day. Your loan is on deck.
HomeAglow just cleaned my entire house for $19. Seriously, $19. They showed up right on time and did my dishes, my laundry, they even cleaned my windows. You just pick a date, pick a cleaner, and enjoy a spotless house for $19. I love using HomeAglow, and I think you will too.
I can feel the winds of change.
In Europe, Putin's war of aggression against Ukraine continues. And Putin wants nothing less than Ukraine's total subjugation, to end Ukraine's democracy, to destroy Ukraine's culture, and to wipe Ukraine off the map. And we know Putin won't stop at Ukraine. But make no mistake, Ukraine can and will stop Putin.
Joining us now is Admiral John Kirby, White House National Security Council Coordinator for Strategic Communications. Admiral Kirby, thank you very much for joining us on this important night. We heard a lot of, it sounded like unanimous agreement among the NATO members there, the heads of state representing all those countries, 32 countries, when the president said things like that about Ukraine tonight. Is that the reality within the NATO of all that kind of unity?
Yes, I would say I'd go so far, Lawrence, as to say that NATO is more unified and more resolved, certainly more relevant than it's ever been before. And I had a long career in the military myself, 30 years or so in the Navy. I've never seen the alliance as strong and as determined as it is now. That's not by accident. That's by President Biden's leadership and really investing in alliances and partnerships. Certainly, it's an outgrowth of what Mr. Putin has tried to do in Ukraine. NATO is resolved and NATO is determined. And what you're going to see this week is a series of deliverables, tangible deliverables, for the alliance to make good on its commitments to helping Ukraine defend itself.
To what extent is this the performance, the outward performance of a set of agreements pre-negotiated by staff and by the leaders over the weeks and months leading up to this meeting, and how much new might actually be accomplished in real time at the meeting?
every conference like this, as you can imagine, there's staff that works it and prepares it and gets ready for the major deliverables and the announcements. That's no different here, no question about it. But I think, including starting tonight, we have seen, and you will see over the next couple of days, real tangible deliverables. One of the example tonight, for instance, is air defense. The president and leaders across the alliance have announced additional air defense capabilities for Ukraine. In the short term, strategic air defense systems like the Patriots and additional Patriot systems going to Ukraine. In the near term, in the near to mid-term, more mid-range air defense systems will be made. Tactical air defense systems will be made available to Ukraine. Over the coming days, you'll also see announcements about the F-16s and when they're going to get to Ukraine and how Ukraine will be able to use them. You're going to see a reaffirmation of NATO being in Ukraine's future, eventual membership, and what that looks like, the path to membership in NATO. All of that will come out of this week.
NATO was obviously created as a umbrella defense of Europe. That's its purpose, that's its focus, that's its job. Not all of these countries see the situation in Israel the same way. They don't see the war in Gaza the same way. Does that, to the extent that there are disagreements, how does that impact the way NATO is working and the issues they are working on within NATO?
It won't affect the summit, and it certainly won't affect the larger issues before the alliance right now, which is clearly the main issue is Russia's war in Ukraine. But there's also issues that they're going to talk about over the next couple of days about defense industrial base development and investment, not just in the United States, but in their countries as well, and in making sure that Ukraine also has an effective, resilient defense industrial base going forward. So there's lots of issues that they'll be able to talk about and tackle. I don't expect the situation in the Middle East to be a dominant topic of discussion. It's not a separate agenda. I mean, you're right, Lawrence. Not everybody agrees with what's going on there. All I can do is speak for President Biden, and he's made it clear we got to make sure Israel can defend itself. We also got to make sure that the people of Gaza don't suffer any more needless suffering than they already have as a result of this war that Hamas has started.
The president has obviously been reaching out to leading Democrats, Democrat organizations, Congressional Black Caucus, to say publicly, I am a candidate, I'm remaining a candidate, I'm going to run for re-election, I'm going to serve another term. Is he doing something similar with NATO to try to assure NATO that he is indeed staying in this campaign?
He's not going to focus on his domestic political situation in this summit. That's not the agenda, and frankly, that shouldn't be the focus of the conversations over the next couple of days. He made it clear publicly. He certainly, as you rightly said, made it clear privately to supporters and to the Democratic National Committee that he's in and he's not leaving and he's running for re-election. I think that's fairly obvious, and that will be fairly obvious, obviously, to the foreign leaders that are here in Washington this week. I can tell you, because I've been in the room when they've talked to him, they appreciate his leadership. They appreciate what he's done on the world stage. They very much appreciate his leadership and American leadership on the NATO alliance and the difference that it has made, not just in supporting Ukraine, but in really trying to build out and develop the NATO alliance for the next 75 years.
Let's listen to one of the questions that was asked in the White House press briefing yesterday, a briefing you participated in. This was after you left. Let's listen to this.
Say that the Pentagon at some point picks up an incoming nuke. It's 11 p.m. Who do you call? The First Lady?
Now, that's the kind of nonsense that Karine Jean-Pierre had to deal with yesterday. I know you were uncomfortable getting questions from the press about the president's condition because that's become something of a campaign issue, and campaign issues is not what you talk about. But to frame it in the terms that we just heard, on the question of force readiness and the commander-in-chief's readiness within that force, at the top of that force. What should America know about President Biden's ability to process emergency information of a national defense, national security issue over the 24-hour time period of a day?
that he can do it, and he has done it. I've been with him, Lawrence. I've seen him at all hours of the day and night as he has processed incoming information, probing for more, asking his national security team to provide additional context, convening world leaders almost on a snap notice. I've seen that as well, particularly with Ukraine. He knows. He knows better than most because he's been at this business for so long, and also 8 years as vice president, that the job of commander-in-chief is a 24/7-hour job. I mean, there is no break, and he understands that. And the answer to the question that Karine got is simple. You call the president, and that's what the national security team does. They call the president.
Yeah, there's nothing, most of the rest of the government does not involve the possibility of emergency. National security does involve the possibility of emergency. No one from Social Security is trying to run into the president at 2 o'clock in the morning and say we have an emergency, or, in fact, most of what the government does. And so your engagement in your entire career has been in national security. It remains that today in the White House. And so your perspective on this president's ability to handle the unexpected at the unexpected hour, I think, is very important for people to be able to hear. And so is there anything that you can think of that in any way restricts this president's ability to handle the potential emergency aspects of the job involving national security?
No, sir. Not a whit. Not a single whit. No, sir. I have seen him, again, all hours of the day and night, processing information of an emergent nature, probing and asking the right questions. And the thing that has impressed me the most, and I didn't know the president before I took this job 2.5 years ago. We had never met. What has really impressed me, including in the last couple of days as we've been working towards the preparations for the NATO summit, is how much he draws on his own keen sense of history and the relationships that he has forged over a long career in public service with overseas leaders. He knows them. And if they're new leaders, he makes an effort to get to know them. He really believes that diplomacy needs to be personal as well as policy-driven, and he acts on that. And he has a fine sense of the way leaders behave and the way countries sort of move and the direction that they want to go in, all drawn on a long, long career in public service. And I'll go one more. Again, because I have such a broad experience in national security, at a time like now, the president calls it an inflection point. At a time right now where there's a war in Ukraine, there's a war in Gaza, we've got significant tensions in the Indo-Pacific, largely because of the belligerent actions of the PRC, and I could go on and on. Counterterrorism, counter-narcotics. There's a lot going on in the world. You want somebody who has that breadth of experience and the wisdom that comes from that experience, and then, just as critically, the ability to forge and to sustain the kinds of relationships with the overseas leaders that actually gets things done. And that's what he's done for the last 3.5 years.
Admiral John Kirby, thank you very much for giving us some of your time tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Coming up, Vice President Kamala Harris was campaigning in the crucial Electoral College state of Nevada today. You'll hear what she had to say next.
My mental health was better, but uncontrollable movements called TD, tardive dyskinesia, started disrupting my day.
TD felt embarrassing. I felt like disconnecting.
I asked my doctor about treating my TD and learned about Ingrezza.
Ingrezza is clinically proven for reducing TD. Most people saw results in just 2 weeks. People taking Ingrezza can stay on most mental health meds. Only #1 prescribed Ingrezza has simple dosing for TD. Always 1 pill once daily. Ingrezza can cause depression, suicidal thoughts, or actions in patients with Huntington's disease. Pay close attention to and call your doctor if you become depressed, have sudden changes in mood, behaviors, feelings, or have thoughts of suicide. Don't take Ingrezza if you're allergic to its ingredients. Ingrezza may cause serious side effects, including angioedema, potential heart rhythm problems, and abnormal movements. Report fevers, stiff muscles, or problems thinking, as these may be life-threatening. Sleepiness is the most common side effect.
Take control by asking your doctor about Ingrezza.
I'm Matthew.
I'm Melissa, and together we started Fresh Clean Threads.
For most of my life, I've worn a black t-shirt, and most were either too short, too baggy, or weren't consistent.
Using my years of apparel experience, we set out to make the world's best fitting t-shirt.
Since day one, our Fresh Clean tees were made to offer a flattering fit for all body types and not break the bank. Unleash your confidence at freshcleanthreads.com.
Some days you can feel like a spectator in your own life with chronic migraine. 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more. Botox prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine before they start. And treatment is 4 times a year. In a survey, 91% of users wish they'd started sooner. So why wait? Talk to your doctor.
Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
Chronic migraine may still keep you from being there. Why wait? Talk to your doctor about Botox and get in the picture. Learn how AbbVie can help you save.
As a cardiologist, when I put my patients on a statin to reduce cholesterol, I also tell them it can deplete their CoQ10 levels. I recommend taking Cunol CoQ10. Cunol has 3 times better absorption than regular CoQ10. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Hey folks, Chris Coonihan here with Leaf Filter, America's largest gutter and gutter protection company. Leaf Filter has over 150 locations and has been installed on over 1 million homes. We've been protecting homes now for over 20 years. Our patented technology offers total protection for your home and comes with a lifetime transferable warranty. The process is simple. Give us a call to schedule your free gutter inspection. If you decide to move forward with the project, you put nothing down at all. 833-LEAF-FILTER or visit leaffilter.com today.
Someone needs to customize and save hundreds with Liberty Mutual. Wait, there's an elevator? Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Your gut is like a garden, growing both good bacteria and bad. That balance is key to a healthy gut environment. Benefiber's plant-based prebiotic fiber gently nourishes the good bacteria, working with your body to help your gut and you flourish effortlessly every day. Grow what feels good with Benefiber.
You look terrible.
You look amazing. You're the fall guy. Oh, I fell. It's like my thing.
The cell provider that was breached has my social from the credit check.
Think of all the places that can expose your info. LifeLock monitors millions of data points for identity theft. If there's a problem, we fix it. Guaranteed.
They say we should stop eating so much meat. So we made meat out of plants. Because we aren't quitters. Impossible. We're solving the meat problem with more meat.
Today, then, we are 118 days out from the election, and while many of us have been involved with these elections every 4 years, and nearly every time we say this is the one, well, this here is the one. This is the one. The most existential, consequential, and important election of our lifetime. Now, we always knew this election would be tough, and the past few days have been a reminder that running for President of the United States is never easy. But the one thing we know about our President, Joe Biden, is that he is a fighter. He is a fighter. And he is the first to say, when you get knocked down, you get back up. We all know, many of us know what that is. So we continue to fight, and we will continue to organize, and in November we will win.
Vice President Kamala Harris today campaigned for the Biden-Harris ticket in the crucial Electoral College state of Nevada.
In all of our work, President Biden and I have been guided by a fundamental belief. We work for you, the American people, not the special interests, not billionaires or big corporations, you. And in this election, there can be no doubt who you can count on to fight for you when it counts. Just look at, for example, the issue of health care. and affordable health care. When he was in the White House, Donald Trump, let's not forget, tried more than 60 times to end the Affordable Care Act and tried to take health care from millions of Americans with pre-existing conditions. Remember those days? President Joe Biden and I, on the other hand, have defended the Affordable Care Act and made it stronger. We capped the cost of insulin for seniors at $35 a month. We are finally making it so that medical debt cannot be used against your credit score. Knowing how many of our relatives have had a medical emergency, something they did not invite or plan, racking up then tens, even hundreds of thousands of dollars of medical bills and debt. And that being used against your credit score is just wrong. Donald Trump has openly vowed, if reelected, that he'll be a dictator on day one, that he will weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies, round up peaceful protesters and throw them out of our country, and even, quote, terminate the United States Constitution. Donald Trump wants to turn our democracy into a dictatorship. And the Supreme Court basically just declared he can get away with it. What's more, Trump's advisors have created a 900-page blueprint they're calling Project 2025. Detailing everything else they plan to do in a second term, including a plan to cut Social Security, to repeal our $35 cap on insulin, to eliminate the Department of Education, and end programs like Head Start. And Project 2025 outlines a plan to limit access to contraception and for a nationwide abortion ban, with or without an act of Congress. If implemented, this plan would be the latest attack in Donald Trump's full-on assault on reproductive freedom. And no, we will not. And remember, then President Donald Trump handpicked 3 members of the United States Supreme Court because he intended for them to undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as he intended, they did. Now over 20 states have a Trump abortion ban, many with no exceptions, even for rape and incest. And Trump has not denied, much less shown remorse for his actions. Instead, he uses the word proudly, takes credit for overturning Roe. So make no mistake, if Trump gets the chance, he will sign a national abortion ban to outlaw abortion in every single state. But we are not going to let that happen. We are not going to let that happen because we trust women. We know women know what's in their own best interest and don't need their government telling them what to do with their body. And when Congress passes a law that restores the reproductive freedoms of Roe, our President Joe Biden will sign it into law. So ultimately, in this election, we each face a question. What kind of country do we want to live in? A country of freedom, compassion, and rule of law,
kids are missing the meals they need this summer. That's why I'm here now asking you to join me in helping end child hunger in America. For just 63 cents a day, that's only $19 a month, you can help provide healthy meals to power kids through their days.
They're growing at this age and they need the best diet they can have.
So please, call now or go online to helpnokidhungry.org. Right now, give $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, and when you use your credit card, well, you'll get this special team t-shirt to show that you're helping kids build a brighter future for themselves and for the world.
We want to ensure that all of our kids have healthy meals every day. And many of our parents and many of our communities are still suffering.
It's very difficult to, have a good family setting when you're worrying about having enough food for your family.
You can help kids get healthy meals this summer and all year long. Please join me in supporting No Kid Hungry today. For just 63 cents a day, only $19 a month, you can help provide healthy meals to kids across America and in your local community.
Thank you for giving.
Thank you for giving.
Thank you.
Families are struggling to make ends meet. These are hard times. So please, call now or go online to give.
I still love to surf, snowboard, and of course skate. So I take Cunol Magnesium to support my muscle and bone health. Cunol's extra strength, high absorption magnesium helps me get the full benefits of magnesium. Cunol, the brand I trust.
What does a robot know about love? It takes a human to translate that leap in our hearts into something we can see and hold. Etsy.
For the most comfortable, luxurious, eco-friendly, and affordable, handcrafted American-made mattresses on the market today. Delivered and set up in any room of your house. Saatva, luxury mattresses made affordable.
I was always skeptical of credit cards, but I also know it's the best way to build your credit. As an entrepreneur, that's essential. So I got the Chime Credit Builder card. There's no annual fee, no interest, and no credit check. My score's gone up over 100 points. Check it out at chime.com.
HomeAglow just cleaned my entire house for $19. No, seriously, $19. They showed up right on time and did my dishes, my laundry, they even cleaned my windows. You just pick a date, pick a cleaner, and enjoy a spotless house for $19. I love using HomeAglow, and I think you will too.
I can feel the winds of change.
Vice President Kamala Harris gets tonight's last word. The 11th hour with Stephanie Ruhle starts now.
Tonight, President Biden on the world stage at the NATO summit in Washington. What's at stake abroad and here at home as Democrats meet behind closed doors about the president's re-election campaign. Then new reporting on Trump's plans to block hearings in his federal election case before this year's vote. Plus, with the RNC just a week away, where things stand in the race to be Trump's VP as the 11th hour gets underway on this Tuesday night. Good evening once again. I'm Stephanie Ruhle, and we are now 119 days away from the election. And as Democrats in Congress met today to discuss the state of President Biden's re-election campaign, the president himself was on the international stage hosting a key NATO summit in Washington. Here's my colleague Gabe Gutierrez with those details.
Tonight, President Biden on the world stage, kicking off a high-stakes NATO summit with 38 world leaders here in Washington.
It's good that we're stronger than ever because this moment in history calls for our collective strength.
President Biden and European allies announcing new air defense systems